how do you transition from a driver to a fleet owner? Okay, if you're a driver right now, if you are driving a cargo van or a sprinter van or one truck, at some point you might be thinking about transitioning, actually scaling your business. So I want to give you the methodology you need to follow in today's conversation to actually transition optimally and properly. First thing first, you want to evaluate your readiness and set clear goals. So this is the kind of objectives you do not want to actually run like jump in it fast. Okay, you want to do your analysis. Ask yourself where is your business right now? What is your transaction volume, your order volume? Are you getting stable? Are you getting orders for shipments on a stable basis, or are you getting orders like are you getting shipments every now and then? Okay, so before you do anything, before you actually transition to a fleet owner, you better really rely on your current experience, on your current customer value. Okay, so take stock of whether you are prepared to accept additional responsibility of owning and running a trucking business, or let's just say a delivery business in general, because this can apply to a cargo van business model like lightweight, also a heavyweight, or even heavy duty. Okay, so this is important. So owner operator is not just driving, okay? It's actually owning and running a business. I want to insist on that. We're talking about owning and running a business, and these two things come with responsibility. So make sure you are ready to take on the responsibility in terms of administrative work, financial planning, and even operational decisions. Now, of course, you can actually outsource part of the work. You can get software to kind of help you out, but you'll be responsible for the final decision. You'll be responsible for decision making. Okay. Ask yourself, is there enough in savings to cover initial costs and slow periods? Are you going to be okay with the ups and downs of a business? Because when you are an independent contractor, you're fine. I mean, you're doing things on your own, or you are just a driver, no problem. Okay. And also, what are your long-term goals operating as an owner operator? You need to have a clear idea about your goals. Okay. So clearly defined goals, for example, maximizing earning potential, achieving a better work-life balance, or owning multiple fleets will keep you focused on making the correct decisions and actually taking necessary actions along the way. Next, if you want to transition from driver to fleet owner, you need to build a strong foundation. When I mean strong foundation, I'm not just speaking about money in the bank. No. A strong financial foundation actually includes also things like your business profile. So you need to maybe set up a business profile, thinking about your EIN, your employer identification number, because you do not want to, because you might be, there might be times when you want to get funding, and you do not want to get funding based on your personal credit score. I mean, you could if you have good credit or excellent credit, but I don't recommend it. If you become a fleet owner, you want to have a legit business, a business that is legally structured, so that you can really borrow on behalf of the business and not use your personal assets. Okay, so basically, one thing you need to understand is that you wouldn't need to make significant upfront purchases for or leases of trucks or other vehicles, cargo vans, sprinter vans. You also got to think about insurance, permits, and miscellaneous vehicle maintenance. Okay. Additionally, you want to build a cushion in case you have a downtime and unexpected expenses. Those things will happen. Okay. It's part of the ups and downs of running a business. So you want to build a good credit record. Okay. Because if you want to get financing, you want to get good business credit, but also good personal credit. You also want to think about budgeting. So determine what you think you are going to spend every month on fuel, maintaining, and insurance, and paying on the truck or other vehicles, plus taxes, because this is going to get matched up to what you could be earning, right? And you should also hire a financial advisor who has been working with truckers, because he or she can guide you or even help you manage your finances for actually a long-term success. You also want to get the right vehicle. Okay, the right vehicle. I'm talking about the right truck or the right cargo van or the right sprinter van. Okay. So you got to think about new versus used. Newer vehicles are completely covered with warranties and the latest technology. However, you have money to really think about, right? A new vehicle costs more money. A used vehicle, taken care of, often saves money. Okay, get it. You want to get it inspected and drive it thoroughly to discover any hidden expensive problems. So among the top operational costs, you have fuel efficiency. Okay, so you want to invest in a vehicle that has a good record for fuel efficiency. Okay, and the cool thing is that many vehicles nowadays, many trucks, many cargo vans, come fully equipped with advanced technologies to save on fuel, which can actually shave off the operating cost in a relatively short period of time. Okay. Also, think about the type of freight you'll be hauling. Okay, depending on the type of cargo you plan on hauling, you will actually you want to get a vehicle that actually matches. Okay, your goals. For example, a flatbed, dry van, and refrigerated truck will all be different. So decide on a truck or other vehicle according to your hauling objective. If you want to transition from driver to fleet owner, you got to pay attention to financing. Funding is really important because remember, you're no longer a driver. You're no longer you are a business owner now. So cash is quintessential. Okay, you got to have cash all the time if you want to run your business optimally. So secure financing and also pay attention to insurance. Insurance is really important. So after you have thought about purchasing or even leasing a vehicle, think about financing. Okay, you most likely won't pay for the vehicle in cash, so you must take into account financing options. And the interest rates vary from bank, credit union, and specialty vehicle. Okay, especially given your credit score, but also your niche, the kind of shipments you want to haul. Okay, so if you are becoming a fleet owner and you are a fleet owner of trucks, you have several trucks. You got to ask yourself what kind of shipments would you be hauling. Additionally, you got to cover other types of insurance as an owner operator, right? This is important because now that you're the big boss, now that you are the man in charge or the woman in charge for that matter, you got to really cover your back. You got to cover your company's back. You got to really shield your company against the uncertainties that happens in this business anyway. So I'm speaking about when I say insurance, I'm talking about primary liability insurance, physical damage insurance, cargo insurance, and occupational accident insurance. So when I say primary liability insurance, I mean this is generally mandatory. This insurance pays if your vehicle causes damage or injuries through an accident. When I say a physical damage insurance, this covers damage to your truck or cargo van and all other unwanted accidents. And when I say cargo insurance, this actually covers the freight if it gets damaged or stolen, okay? And something you need to have. And occupational accident insurance, that's in case you don't have workers' compensation, work-related injuries will be covered. So you want to buy the cheapest insurance rates and make sure that you are properly covered. Next, you want to be aware of and comply with the regulations. So if you want to transition from driver to a fleet owner, you got to really pay attention to regulations big time. Because owner operator means that you are the boss. I've said this before, but it's important. But it also means you need to be compliant with regulations and legal requirements. For example, if you are a truck driver, if you are a truck fleet owner, you gotta comply with trucking regulations and legal requirements. And this includes acquiring the necessary permits, licenses, and registrations. Okay. So let me give you a few regulations that you need to comply with in terms of specificities. Okay. So you have US dot number, you have operating authority, you have the HVUT, so heavy vehicle use tax, the IRP, so the international registration plan, but also the IFTA, so the International Fuel Tax Agreements. So when I say a US dot number, this is actually is necessary if you plan to, let's say, conduct business in interstate, or you want to haul, let's say, hazmats. If you want to haul hazmats, then you got to have a US dot number. What about operating authority? Well, such a license is given to you if you are engaged in hauling freights, okay, regardless of the geography you're hauling the freights within, okay. And when I say a heavy vehicle use tax, this is for trucks that weigh more than a certain weight, okay. So, but this means that you have to file a form, and a specific form, and pay an annual HVOT, and it's Form 2290. Form 2290. You also have an international registration plan. So if you cross interstate, you should register in the IRP, which pulls your fees from one state to another. And you also have the IFTA. So this simplifies filing fuel consumption reports and settling taxes in all states. Okay, that's kind of cool. And one thing I want to say here is that you are able to, if you become a fleet owner, you want to learn Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to save actually yourself from subsequent penalties, or even worse, lawsuits. If you want to transition from driver to fleet owner, relationships are going to be quite essential for you. Not only for bringing revenue on a consistent basis, but also solidifying your relationship with customers over time, okay? You'll be looking for a steady flow of work, right? You want to make sure that you're having a steady flow of shipments to haul. So you got to really keep consistent communication with reliable shippers. Like those will be your go-to customers, okay? You also got to keep a good relationship with freight brokers. And you also want to be on load boards that matter to your niche, okay? Especially, I mean, don't go for all load boards. I mean, you can just maybe go to a truckstop.com or that, among others, okay? Because that way you are able to acquire solid long-term contracts, okay? So networking helps you find better paying jobs and also negotiate better rates. And you need to be in a position where you are negotiating better rates over time. So load boards are great to help you get started in funding loads. But one thing you need to understand is that with load boards, sometimes you might have rates that usually fluctuates, and the competition can be pretty tight too. So don't really look at load boards as your only source of shipments, of hauls to come. Okay, you can also think about brokers. You know, brokers, you can really connect with them on regular loads, on regular load boards. Okay, over time, these relationships can actually translate into better paying contracts. Okay, then you also have direct shippers. I mean, you can really work with direct shippers if you don't want to pay a middleman, because a freight broker is a middleman. Okay, a dispatcher can be a middleman too. So you can just go to the shipper directly and reduce your cost of acquisition. You also want to prioritize time and business management efficiency. If you want to transition from driver to fleet owner, this is an important element, because you got to manage your time effectively, because you'll be responsible for all the admin tasks such as invoicing, accounting, maintenance, and also you have to control your driving hours, rest periods, delivery schedules, and so on. Now, the best way you want to do this is that you want to hire a dispatcher. A dispatcher can help you big time in terms of streamlining your operations. Okay, so you might use fleet management software, load planning tools, or even accounting software to really streamline your operations. If you want to transition from driver to fleet owner, you got to be in a situation where you are continuously learning over and over and over, because the delivery industry, the cargo van industry, the trucking industry, those are industries that never stand still. Okay, so you got to really understand, you got to keep up with evolving regulations, evolving technology, evolving market trends. Okay, at the end of the day, you got to be aware of what's happening in your industry, what's happening in your geography, what's happening in your niche, okay? And you gotta be aware of what to do. You gotta know what to do to stay competitive. So you can join trucking associations, for example. You can participate in forums regarding the industry you're in, your niche, and you can also seek learning opportunities in business practices to actually keep competitive. Okay. One thing you need to also understand is that this is not something you can acquire overnight. It takes time. Okay, it takes time when it comes to possibilities, when it comes to unlocking the best possibilities in your niche. But you also need to balance benefits and responsibilities as an owner operator if you become a fleet owner. Because hey, listen, you decide when to work, that's fine, but then you have to really understand that you have enough work to do so that you can decide when to work. Of course, you have fewer rules to follow. If you are a driver, you have rules to follow because you're working for someone, or even if you're not working for someone, you're working for some shippers. But once you have a fleet of vehicles, you can choose. Okay, you have fewer rules to follow. You earn all the money, that's for sure. But just don't remember to delegate certain aspects of the business so you can really balance. You can strike the right balance between work and life. Okay, and you have to pay self-employment taxes, but also all other taxes. Like if you set up your business as an LLC or as an S corporation or a C corporation, you may have to pay business taxes. Okay, you may have to file an 1120S or 11 Form 1120S or Form 1120 or Form 1065. Okay, regardless of the setup that you have, remember that you are responsible for your taxes, whether it is self-employment taxes or other taxes. Also, remember that you have some responsibility regarding compliance. You are responsible for compliance, okay? So you want to understand that. I think I've said this before, but it's important if you want to scale in this business model that you want to verify, for instance, insurance credentials. You want to track and report hours of service, okay? You got to keep up with other compliance and reporting requirements. You have to really have a system where you can track the fuel you're paying because fuel costs are usually the biggest expense associated with being an owner operator. Okay. And this can range from 50 grand to 70 grand per year. Okay. So that's a lot of cash to actually plow into one expense category. So you got to have you got to find out, you got to come up with a way to track that expense either through software, through an app, or through an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. You got to also think about maintenance. So if you want to transition from fleet to fleet owner, from a driver to fleet owner, and remain a good fleet owner, you have to maintain your vehicles. Okay. You have to find a way to get your own work, a steady flow of work. You have to be financially responsible. We're talking about not just budgeting. We're not just talking about funding. We're talking also about your business credit score or your personal credit score. You also got to make a decision about leasing versus owning. Okay. You got to really understand what works for your specific industry. Now, of course, leasing is cheaper in the short run than owning. That's for sure. And so if you don't have the financial ability, it's just better to lease vehicles at first until you get to a certain situation, a certain level where you can say, okay, now I'm in a position where I can just buy vehicles outright. Okay, you can start with leasing, but one thing for sure, you want to properly set up your business. I've said this before, but it's important. You want to have a business checking account. You want to apply for an EIN, an employer identification number. Okay, don't just run things as if like you're just running things in a very amateurish way. No, run things professionally, because once you start handling all aspects of your business, you better have a strong business model. Okay, you want to purchase the necessary insurance. Don't play with insurance. Insurance is going to be critical for you, not just because it is mandated by the authorities, but also this will cover you. This will cover your back just in case something happens. And believe me, if you are a delivery driver, especially if you have a fleet, if you are a fleet owner, things will happen and you want to be covered. You want your vehicles to be covered, okay? And also get all the required licenses and permits to operate legally. As a coda in today's conversation, I spoke to you about how to transition from driver to fleet owner. I give you the methodology, the extras, okay? So when I say methodology, you have to assess your readiness and set clear goals. You have to build a strong financial foundation, get the right truck, secure financing and insurance, be aware of and comply with the regulations, develop good shipper broker relations, okay? Prioritize time and business management efficiency, and continuously learn more. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.